So without further ado, Mort, let me hand it over to you to talk through where we're at in terms of CX.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Scott. Appreciate it. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be on this call to talk about a topic that I'm actually very passionate about. So CX, which is essentially an acronym for customer experience, is something that I think is an absolutely critical part of any B2B conversation. Now I'm going to explain to you what CX is, not through definition, but through a story, a personal story, as a matter of fact. So in January, I was flying from Milwaukee to LaGuardia in New York on Delta Airlines. And there was some weather that kind of impacted the flight, pretty substantial delay. And after my flight, I called up the Delta call center, the customer service line. I spoke to a young lady. She was very helpful, very apologetic. And essentially, they gave me 10,000 free miles for my inconvenience. So I thought that was a great customer experience. I loved it. As an IT guy, I immediately thought to myself, well, how did they do that, right? So the inbound call came in. There was probably some IVR, some type of CTI somewhere. The call routed to the proper person. The person knew exactly who I was based on my called in number. They were able to pull up my account. They were able to see I have platinum status. Maybe that played a role in what type of benefit they provided me. And then I also thought to myself, well, now this call is logged somewhere. It shows I made a touch with Delta. And then of course there was kind of like a related payout. So that for me was a fantastic customer experience. And I was able to kind of rationalize in my mind, what is the technology play that kind of got me there. Now fast forward to Monday. Monday, I'm flying back home from a family trip, and I was flying from Detroit to Milwaukee. We had a pretty severe weather delay. There was some weather in Milwaukee, and again, my flight was delayed. Now I'm sitting at the Detroit airport at 2:30 in the morning. My flight has just been delayed. Is very frustrated. I'm aggravated, and the first thought that went through my mind was, you know what? I'm going to call the call center. I'm going to have a great experience. They're going to give me 10,000 points, and I'm going to be happy. So I was already prepared to have a great customer experience. Guess what happened, guys? While I'm sitting at the airport at 2:30 in the morning, I get an email from their customer service department telling me, hey, very sorry, Mort. We noticed your flight was delayed. Here's the reason it was delayed. Here is your next flight out. And guess what? We're giving you 10,000 points. Guys, that to me is not just customer experience, but the progression of customer experience. So the customer experience for me always starts with a journey. And the journey is not just when you talk to your customer, the journey happens at every level of interaction with your organization. The fact that the second time I went through this, I never spoke to anyone at Delta. I didn't touch anyone at Delta. There was no proactive touch point with Delta, but the journey still happened. The interaction still happened, but it happened at a different level. And I think that's really what helped it stand out. Also, if you think about how it happened, that intersection point of how they reached out to me and proactively solved my problem before me ever even letting them know a problem existed, the impact of that was tremendously more for me. So the first time I called them, they solved my problem. The second time, they just solved my problem without me ever calling them. So the weight of that experience is significantly more, and that's why I shared that story with you today. And when you think about customer experience, the customer journey, you always think about it from the customer perspective. You think of it from my experience, from my perspective, but then you can rationalize in the background how that's happening. So I shared with you the first step on how I thought the IT supported my journey. In this second step, guys, you know what they added? They probably added some type of a marketing tool. Right? They added some type of a tool like a Pardot or a marketing cloud, things that we at Canpango service. And that tool told them, guys, guess what? Last time when this happened with Mort, he called in, we gave him 10,000 points. This time, let's save ourselves some money on that inbound call. Let's save ourselves some money on the time that we have committed to whatever hours that person has to use to respond to the call. And let's use those hours for something more beneficial to the organization. But let's still take care of Mort as a customer. So I think that when you look at it from a customer's perspective, that's where the solution comes from. But the journey to get there is all IT and technology based, and it's all going to be based in the background. Another really critical point about customer experience is all about the comparative nature of it. Delta is not the only airline I fly. I also fly American. As a matter of fact, my wife and I are going on our honeymoon. We're leaving in 2 weeks and we're taking American. But when we get to Europe, we're taking 3 other airlines to go all over the place, right? So Delta is not even going to be in play there. But you better believe that while I'm on these airlines, I'm immediately going to be comparing their service, their interaction, their automation to my experience with Delta. So customer experience is always comparative. And when you talk to your customers about the value of customer experience, the way you make yourself stand out as an expert is to tell them, guess what? When we talk about your customer experience, we're talking about your customer experience in the grand scheme of things. And it's critical to help them with some of that industry research and make sure that they understand where their comparative benefit sits within their competitive set. And that's a great way to add value to your customer. And you also have to understand where within a customer journey, you level set the direction. So what that means is when you are an airline, as I gave the example, the airline is essentially the upstream step into my journey, or the downstream step into my journey. When I flew out on Delta, I was starting a vacation. When I flew back on Delta, I was ending a vacation. So depending on the identification of that step, you can level set the direction or how you approach. In my opinion, when you think about customer experience, if I'm on my way somewhere, I'm probably less likely to be upset about something bad happening because I'm going to a fun destination, right? Right. So if you have the data point that says Mort's going on vacation, I'm probably willing to compromise some customer experience because I know that the end is going to be something fun. But on the flip side, if I'm coming back from vacation, I've just had an awesome time, I'm going to be more needy when it comes to my customer experience needs. And this is the type of intelligence that we can help you with some research, some market research, and like help you understand that within each industry, how that identification is very, very important. So let's talk a little bit about how technology and some of the technology functions can kind of coexist inside of the customer experience ecosystem. This is a graph you're probably going to start to see more and more as you work with Canpango, because Canpango, Intelisys, Salesforce have a very strong and conscious effort of moving towards customer experience as a solution as we look at our strategy for 2019 as well as moving into 2020. So having an enabled workforce, and you enable your workforce through tools. You're going to enable them through things like the Salesforce platform, where you can have that customer 360 view. You're going to empower that workforce by giving them data that's being collected from tools like Pardot and Marketing Cloud. Again, tools that we have experts here at Canpango to help you navigate. We're going to engage that workforce. We're going to engage the workforce by making sure that they have proactive steps and actions available to them. So when I call them for support, we're going to engage them by making sure all the data they need is there. And we're going to make them act on that data through giving them some industry best standards. One of the things, and probably the reason I'm so passionate about customer experience, is the impact on your worker culture. When you start talking to your customers about their culture and how customer experience can benefit their culture, it's a tremendous conversation. It's an empowering conversation because you can teach them that, hey, by influencing the customer experience, you can create value for your internal culture because you are now setting yourself apart as a company who's customer focused. And I think from there, it really kind of gets into all the downstream things like sales, support, what to do after after your customer has sold something, how customers can self-service, how customers can have automated service. Perfect example being how Delta automated their email. They automated that. They automated that customer empowerment to me. They empowered me to find success and satisfaction without me having to do anything. I think that's what we talk about when we talk about empowering your customers. And then, guys, that leads into loyal customers, right? When you're talking to your customers and you tell them, folks, I can bring you a solution conversation. That's going to help us create loyalty within your customer base. That's going to help create empowerment and automation and self-service in your customer base. Trust me, they're going to want to listen to you because you're bringing them something that is incredibly powerful, and that stuff goes all the way up to the executive level. And I think that's a lot of value in that. So here's how you scope this work, guys. These are the things you want to look for when you're talking to your customers on how you can try to understand if they have customer experience needs and how some of the tools that Canpango can support you with, will help you escalate that conversation. Let's say one of your customers has poor CSAT, customer satisfaction. They themselves have low customer satisfaction. The way we solve that is by making sure that their data, all their data in the backend is connected. So with Delta, the fact that Mort called, the fact that Mort has called in the past, the fact that Mort's flight was delayed, all of that is connected data. And when you expose that to the internal worker, you're then giving them that 360 view. And the Salesforce platform is a fantastic way to do that. I think within that, you can also then look at transparency of data. You can show the worker themselves, how effective are we in solving our customers' needs, our customers' problems, and having that service level transparency can be critical, and we can do a lot of that through surveys. Now, if we implement that strategy, what are we going to get? Well, for me, it was a first call resolution the first time I called Delta. They knew I had a bad experience, and they solved it right away. I did not have to call back. They didn't, they didn't say, hey, we need to check up on the flight. We need to check up why it was delayed. They had all that information because they had connected data. And then that created trust and loyalty in me. You heard Scott allude to worker experience. When you have a good customer experience, you have a good worker experience because people want to work with happy customers. Nobody wants to work with unhappy customers. So when your workers are working with happy customers, they're going to want to stay. So when you're working with one of your customers and they tell you, hey, so-and-so, and TELUS partner, I have some issues with worker attrition. That is a great opportunity to start talking to them about customer experience. Some of the strategies we can employ there is gamification, getting those workers involved, more training education. Guys, simple things like better communication. All these things increase your worker experience, and that increase in worker experience and benefit is going to lead to less attrition issues. And of course, you can see the impact of why people want to be part of organizations that are offering them training and strong communication, right? They kind of get that sense of belonging. That, like the education shows a commitment to professional growth and being part of something bigger. I like that we put belonging twice because that's super awesome. I think another thing is if you have customers that are talking about having issue with getting good talent, I think increasing your customer experience is a great opportunity to identify and collect and bring on stronger talent. Getting feedback from your customers can help you create that social network presence and social media presence. Marketing Cloud and Social Studio within Marketing Cloud is a fantastic way to do that. We have helped implement many of our customers with this concept of talk to a worker. So if you have someone who is, so if you have a customer that's going through an interview process, we can teach them how they can leverage their existing employees to help create a better experience. And I think that creates that industry leadership around, how do you get into that, top 10 places to work type of a thing. And I think the impact of that is you're ending up using your internal and your known quantities, like your current customers, your current employees. You're now using them as essentially recruiters, and that can kind of help you do a better forecasting of your talent, as well as a better understanding of kind of doing some like public news and things like that.
Great, yeah. So we actually, I just want to stop here for a moment. We did have a question come in regarding the Delta example. Do we know if Delta uses Salesforce and are they a client of Canpango?
So Delta most definitely uses Salesforce. As a matter of fact, I used to work for a company that helped with a big part of their Service Cloud setup. Delta, unfortunately, is not currently a Canpango customer, but I've got this great talk track now around my customer service experience. So you better believe I'll be sending someone over there an email to see if I could solicit some work.
Yes, Vinay, if you have contacts over there.
Yeah, man, let us know.
Delta.
Get us in there. So I think this is a really powerful quote, and I think this is something that Kathleen had found. And I like to read this out loud because this is kind of a fun one. This is kind of a fun one because this comes from Southwest Airlines, right? So we're talking about airlines here, and this is another airline kind of within that competitive set of Delta. And it says, we believe that if we treat our employees right, so now they're talking about their worker experience. If we treat our employees right, they will treat our customers right. And that is just that propagation of worker experience to customer experience. And in turn, that results in increased business and profits. And I think Southwest is a great example of that. So guys, what we're trying to tell you here is when you're talking to your customers, customer experience is the end product. That is the destination. The journey is worker experience. And your satchel for the journey are the tools that Canpango services, like the Salesforce platform. So you empower their worker. You empower your customer through Canpango and Salesforce. And the benefit that they see is their customer experience. Really powerful stuff, guys. These are conversations we love having. If you have identified a customer who has issues with attrition, they have issues with talent management, they have issues with a low CSAT, please get ourselves in, please get us involved. You guys all know who Scott is. You guys all, obviously have a direct line to me. We can help you navigate these strategic conversations. We're very passionate about the customer experience. The nice part is we can share with you stories and experiences where we have implemented tools that have created a strong worker experience, which has then led to a fantastic customer experience.